Welcome, friends. Let us together rebuild this world so that we may live, laugh, and lore.
I was going into Toshi Station to pick up some power converters.
I can bring you in warm, or I can bring you in cold.
Not listening. I'm not listening.
Oh, that took.
Program loaded and ready.
Make it so.
Welcome to the Live, Laugh, Lore podcast. We're your hosts. I'm Tony.
And I'm Mark. And so this week, we're bringing you a Living the Lore episode.
Yes.
So we're going to kind of get into something that's about lore, that we're not really diving into the...
Yeah, so I had to sell Mark on this one a little bit. Not sell Mark, because we plan our episodes out, and we were going through, and, it was actually inspired by the New Zealand trip, because it's kind of unique. You could say, I really like playing piano. Like, piano is like my passion, and I can just have the instrument and play the instrument. And you can say, lore is my passion, and you can have conversations with a really good cousin, like we are right now. But otherwise, it's kind of hard to practically use lore in a way. Does that kind of make sense, Mark? Like, meaning, when you break it out, because sometimes I think lore has this, not a double-edged sword, where there's so much in depth, and you get really passionate about it, and you kind of want to share that out, but sometimes it's difficult to share it out without sounding like, well, actually,
Exactly.
Lord of the Rings is, I think it gets a little bit difficult. And I was trying to kind of reconcile, like, other than having a podcast and, of course, engaging with us through social media and our Gmail, what other ways could people do kind of share that lore, passion, and love and bring it out to a real-world application? And so... yeah, so I kindly named it as like living lore. I also said selling D&D. This is kind of my way of saying, hey, tabletop role-playing is a really great avenue for that exact goal, right? Because you can kind of build up a lore that you kind of have in your own head where you're homebrewing it, or you can kind of go out and pick a franchise that you already love, and there's probably already a tabletop role-playing system associated with it. So now, Mark, do you have a lot of experience with tabletop role-playing games? Have you done a lot of D&D? I think I know the answer, but I want to give you a chance to...
No, I've always been interested, but the people I know, like you and Paul, that do play are like, I don't want to say intense, but have been playing for a long time, and you play with others that have been playing for a long time. So your campaigns seem overwhelming for me to jump into, right?
Correct.
Because campaigns could last from anywhere from one night to several months, right?
Yeah, and we call those one-shots. That's exactly, but one shot is a one-night thing, and then, which that reminds me, honestly, Mark, we really should bring you in for a one-shot. We do one-shots every once in a while.
Okay,
we
well,
should
I'd love to. Yeah.
It's so much fun. But yeah, you're right. D&D does kind of suffer from that, and that's where I'm hoping this podcast is kind of sharing out. D&D has its own lore, right? And we can definitely get into that. But also, I'm really hoping that this is a good selling point to, hey, grab some friends and kind of talk about maybe where your interests lie and find a weekday or a weekend and just kind of attack this, because I really believe that there is a really good application here. So, Mark, we should definitely absolutely have you for a one-shot at a minimum. And you're totally right. These campaigns can last for a very long time. I mean, my longest campaign, so I started my junior year of high school. That was another really big thing, too. When you're in high school, you have, like, no money. And, you're just trying to, find ways. And we tried to get into Magic Gathering. That was really tough because it's very expensive. And D&D were like, oh, my gosh, this is perfect. We just have to have one book. And then we all have these sheets of paper. And it's the cheapest thing you can do. You know what I mean? For, some high schoolers on a Friday night after, marching band.
Yeah.
What do you do? You know what I mean? And so we decided, we're going to go into D&D. So I started around junior year. And then I had that campaign last for 2+ years, played on and off. But when we got to college, it got a little hectic. And then I had another campaign in between. I graduated college, undergrad. And then in between grad school, I had like a year campaign. And then now this one is probably gearing up on a year plus. So yeah, they can get pretty big campaigns.
Right.
And they can kind of span all that time. But I think the really good thing is that now we have our own... when I'm with these friend groups, we have our own lore. And it just kind of excites me, because sometimes with some of those groups, and that's kind of one of the main first selling point of it, is it's really whatever you want to make it, right? So it's really this fact of, you can say, hey, I want to just go in and I want to go experience this D&D world in a pre-generated book, and you can just kind of go beat for beat, and it's still a really fun opportunity. Like when we first started playing, that's what we did. We did a book as Lost Mines of Phandelver. Those D&D players out there, whoever's listening in D&D, they just kind of, whoa, hey, I remember that, because that's like your standard, the big first adventure, Lost Mines of Phandelver, for a 5th edition D&D, that is. But whole point is you can play a pre-generated book like that, but also you can make your own lore. Like the one I'm doing right now, I'm the DM. DM stands for Dungeon Master, but basically I set the rules, or not necessarily the rules. I'm kind of like the rule follower, right? There's this system that Wizards of the Coast made in D&D for 5th edition. There's this rule set that kind of comes about, and my role is just to facilitate the story to move it forward, whether that's bringing in new monsters, new environments, new scenarios, but with the group of players to come in and for them to react to everything that I can throw at them, pushing a group narrative on.
So how much time on the back end would that normally take someone, Tony, to be their own dungeon master?
Oh, man. So it can be quite a bit. If you're doing a pre-generated story, it's really not that bad, just because you can kind of see it beat for beat and you can look forward, and they're kind of already structuring the world and kind of where you want to go. And I enjoy that. I would recommend anyone who hasn't tried D&D, and moreover, anyone who hasn't done DMing, I would highly recommend that. It's the training wheels were out. Not saying there's anything wrong with it. I don't look down on it. Some people do look down on that. I really don't. But when you want to homebrew, we call it homebrewing. When you want to homebrew a world, oh my gosh, that is a lot. I had this little notebook that I kept on my just little back pocket, and for months while I was finishing up my grad school, because I was like, hey, I got to get back into my passions. You know what? I'm going to homebrew a full world and everything. So I was creating like a pantheon or a group of gods. I was going through making these maps of just different capital cities and different land masses, and how does it overarch with the story, and what's driving these characters, so the political strife, the religious strife, all this other stuff. So it can be pretty time consuming.
Right.
But also that was me going full hog and building up this world, right? Like I have pages and pages of just notes that no one will ever see, but I know.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's why I'm kind of trying to sell this, because if someone's like, oh my gosh, I really love lore, like this is a really good place to do it, because it's just an avenue I can just put a lot of creative juices in, and I feel very fulfilled.
Yeah.
But no, it's a really, really, really fun time to be a DM. Some people don't like it. I really like it. But it is quite a bit of work in the front. But at the same time, too, the DM can make your players do quite a bit of work up front, too. A good example of this is I know a couple people who were, and maybe there's some DM tips. If you're ever curious about DM tips, please, let me know, and I'd love to answer them, because one of the good ones to kind of show some work on the player's end is they have you write down 10 rumors about your character, and you can mark them if they're true, you can mark them if they're false.
Right.
But the whole point is like the general public knows this about you.
Yeah.
And as you gain more notoriety or fame, however you want to, whichever alignment you want to go with.
Yeah.
They're going to virtually go out and pick more of those. So now more of the common people will kind of call them out or recognize you or do something like that, just to get a little bit more immersion, but also for the characters to think of some fun stuff.
Right.
But so, Mark, all that being said, I think this is a really good way of going about and showing people that DMing and also just D&D as a whole is a really good outlet for lore. And with that being said, I kind of mentioned that, hey, there's really great avenues to start, because you can either start with just doing pure D&D, or you can start doing some franchises that you already know, so it's a little bit easier for you to kind of catch up, right?
So you can get more specific with it.
Exactly. And D&D is a very good structured fantasy world. You have your paladins, you have your rogues, you have the elves, you have humans. It's a very structured, normalized fantasy world. And a lot of people like that because it's just kind of a blank slate and you can write your own stories. Other people go, you know what? I really love Star Wars. I kind of want to see what would that role-playing be like if I was more in this world. For tabletop role-playing, you have a system which helps you navigate that world. So, for example, when I say like the system, it's D&D 5th edition. That's the system in which I'm using. that can also bleed into characters because there's a lot of D&D characters, everything. But my whole point, and extra facts. But my whole point is that is a system. So these ones I'm about to share with you, these are different systems that you can play to get to role playing. Does that kind of make sense?
It does. So how often? I guess it probably varies, but how often does an edition come out? So D&D has been around for at least a little while, right? Because I know
Gary Gygax, my boy.
Yeah, so at least in the 80s, right? Because Stranger Things shows them playing Dungeons and Dragons, right? So I don't know.
They're probably first or second edition, easy. Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
So there's speculation talks that they're kind of going to do more. It is a really big deal when you change a system. So like there's different ways you can go about that, right? So for like D&D, you kind of have this alignment. So imagine like 6 boxes. There's a first column and second column, but 3 boxes each. The way in which you are morally. Are you good? Are you neutral? Or are you evil? And then there is the second column, which is how you are lawfully. Meaning whether it's the rules of man or the rules of your religion, how well do you follow rules? And there's lawful, neutral, and chaotic. Paladin is a great example. They are probably going to be lawful good. Oh, sorry, I mixed this up. Law is first column. Yeah, good and bad. Sorry. Morally is the second one. But lawful good. So if you guys watched Honor Amongst Thieves, the D&D movie with Chris Pine, the Paladin, that was a big joke. How mighty he was. And, he was so lawful and so good. He couldn't even turn around to, around the rock. He had to literally walk over it. It's stuff like that. So that was really funny. That's a good example of showing that. And same thing, let's say this rogue character, you can be a good rogue where it's like Robin Hood. Robin Hood's a good example. He is technically chaotic because he's not really lawful. He's not following the laws of the land.
Yeah.
But he's good because he's giving that money back to the poor. So that's kind of and I think you can have a lot of fun with that. One of my characters was just neutral, net neutral. That's all I was trying to do. And so he was neutral. So if he ever did anything good from the world, he'd have to do something bad. If he ever did anything, and it was almost a fun mini game that I was playing with myself amongst all the other people playing in the role. So I really kind of enjoyed that. But that's one example of that system at work.
Absolutely.
And so this is one small part, and man, we could probably talk. I could talk for hours on the system, how it works. But that's a good example of showing you that you want a system to help you say a story and be with other people, and for everyone to enjoy that time. That's when I say system, right? So going back to it, so now we have a couple recommendations, right? So first one is Star Trek. If you're kind of going out, this is what I was really excited about because I personally want to try this. And if there's anyone out there who wants to try this, I would love to try it with somebody.
So you haven't tried the Star Trek ones yet?
No, dude, I'll be honest, I haven't tried any of these on the list.
Oh, okay.
And so I'm not gonna lie, when I was researching these, I was like, first off, this is unreal because I just want to play these now. Really bad. I want to find a local game store, ask around if anyone's playing these, and figure it out because these seem a lot of fun. So, and Mark, maybe if any of these catches your fancy, we can get a little group going. And then we can just have a whole subplot of the podcast, you know what I mean? Do like a Twitch stream of all this.
Of us just playing board games?
Of us playing board games. Tabletop RPG.
All right,
sorry. No, I'm joking. No. See, that's a good example of lore coming at you.
Yep.
But, so Star Trek. So Star Trek has two really well-known ones, but... And a lot of these, there's always a caveat because there's someone who's made their own custom system for these franchises. But these are well-known, recognized, and licensed through Star Trek and through the rest of the franchises I'll go forward. But the first one is Star Trek, and it's Star Trek the role-playing game. It's from 1982. Seems like it's pretty fun, but also it was one of its first of its kind, right?
Yeah.
D&D was before this just by a little bit, so they're still kind of working out the kinks. Then the next one is Star Trek Adventures. This was in 2017. This is heralded as this is the one. Star Trek Adventures is one you want to do. It's almost like a series of mini one-shots.
So for the Star Trek 1982, which series were out at that point? Was it just the original? Was Picard also out or no?
This would have been just the originals. We might have just been getting around to Next Generation. That's a great question. Okay, yeah. It was 1987 when we got Next Gen. So Next Gen would not have been out. So it would have been original series.
Nice. All right.
Yep. So, and then the cool thing about Star Trek Adventures is they actually have the different series. So you can play in the original series, you can play Next Generation, and then it gets kind of odd because technically the Next Generation and the rest of them are kind of in the same timeline. So I don't know if they separate the books out between like Deep Space Nine, Voyager, all that other fun stuff, and then you have Enterprise on there too, which is its own timeline. So you're like, let's go to Star Wars. So Star Wars has actually quite a bit. I just kind of condensed it down to the top 5. Arguably, it's 4 with an update. But the first one was just West End Games D6 edition. Came out in 1987, and they got updated in 1996. This one is pure 4, 5, and 6. And then it got a re-update in the D20 edition. And this one is similar mechanics, like I said, system, right? Similar system to D&D 3rd edition and 4th edition, because it was kind of right around that time period when it's coming out. But once again, I think that one's actually covering the prequels, or it's doing a lot more. I think it added on to it and just tried to make it, kept the same system, but new information. And then we have Star Wars Saga Edition. And then we have Star Wars 5e, which is no joke. They're using 5th edition D&D system, but with all Star Wars characters.
Gotcha. Okay.
So that one's like probably, if you've ever played D&D or anything adjacent to it, that'd be the most accessible one because it's literally using the 5th edition mechanics. And then the last one is just Star Wars RPG. This is by Fantasy Flight Gaming. This is the most current one, but when you ask people online and say, hey, which one's the best one? Because, of course, that's why I was like, this is going out to the world in a podcast. I got to, research and do my due diligence, right? I got to do my homework. But the West End Games D6 edition is heralded to be like the best one. They really had all the information right. They gave you a really good bang for your buck on the information, and it's just the way they balanced it out. A really cool, unique one is Star Wars has this really bad powering option, which is still a struggle here, but they do it really well. But basically, if you're a Force user, you can destroy everybody. Yeah. Like, why would I choose to be a bounty hunter when, my friend next to me is a Force wielder and they can just solve everything, Yeah. So you kind of have to balance out your characters, and they apparently did a really good job at doing that, where other ones kind of suffered from that power imbalance. Mm-hmm. And then also Dune. So it was just recently May the 4th as we're recording this. And instead of watching Star Wars, I actually watched some of the inspiration for Star Wars, which was Dune. So I watched the original Dune 1982, I think it was. Yeah, so while I was doing this research and I was watching Dune in the background, I was like, I wonder if Dune has one. And Dune, no joke, has a tabletop role-playing game. Yeah. So it's called Dune Adventures in the Imperium. And so, once again, it just goes to show you all these different franchises have their own role-playing game. So if you ever wanted to kind of try it out, this is a good way to do it because you already know the franchise and you can just bleed right into the system. All you got to do is learn the system, right? Mm-hmm. And I think what was really kind of unique about this one, Dune in particular, is you can build up your house. So talk about player interaction, right? Remember I was kind of bringing that up? Yeah. Because you asked, like, hey, how much does a player do? So most of these games, you can just build a character and you're good to go. But this one, you have to set up your whole house and everything. So there's actually a really big, not barrier to entry, but learning curve for the player because they have to come in house built and how it reacts to everyone else involved in the table.
Wow, that sounds pretty involved. I mean,
it sounds very involved, but it's one of those things where it's like Axis and Allies. Like, it's a 6-hour game, but gosh, does it sound fun. I don't know what it is. Yeah. There's something in my brain that just clicks, and I resonate with that. The last one is just Lord of the Rings. And Lord of the Rings has a really easy job because it's just literally fantasy, so you could pair it back to, D&D 5th edition. But they also have their own set, which is just called the One Ring. Yeah. And that One Ring is, people talk very highly on it. It's really good. You know how I was saying, like, chaotic, neutral, lawful, everything like that? So they have basically like this light and shadow system where you're losing hope. So if you ever lose your hope, the wing weighs you down and you lost the campaign or you die, And I thought that was a really cool mechanic. I don't know. I just really enjoyed it. Yeah. And so, but with that being said, so Mark, I've been talking a lot, and I remember I gave you a little bit of homework here. Mm-hmm. What did you find? So I was saying, hey, Mark, you've never played D&D. If I said, hey, I want you to campaign, what kind of character would you make? Or what would be the inspiration for your characters? And we kind of talked about Lord of the Rings and how that kind of mapped to it really easy. Yep. And I think you went about and mapped them.
That is correct. So to answer your first question, what character? So first of all, I got this information from dndbeyond.com. Mm-hmm. And it just lists the classes.
That's official.
And it lists, so I only looked at like the 12 classes. And then there's like 2 other categories. Classes that I looked at were Barbarian, Bard, Cleric, Druid, fighter, monk, paladin, ranger, rogue, sorcerer, warlock, and wizard.
Perfect. And you got them alphabetical.
Yeah. Well, the website is.
Oh, I was like, dang, dude. Yeah.
And then there's two more: the artificer and the blood hunter that I did not look at because they were in two different categories, and
those are also extra.
Yeah, I just figured focus on the main 12.
I just also realized I probably should have told you the core book because some of those extra ones were in different books that got released. Because about all these different systems have a lot of books. Like there's a core rule set which tells you how the system works, and then there's additive books that bring in more filigree information.
Yeah. So as far as a character that I would build, I was looking through all of them. So Gimli's kind of my boy in the world of the Lord of the Rings, right?
Okay.
So on this website, the cleric has a picture of a dwarf. So I opened that first. But the description of a cleric is really not Gimli.
No.
So I realized, so they've got pictures of different races, right? And I quickly realized that it's just a class, but any race could be any of these classes in D&D, right?
And there's some synergies there if you want to like min-max your character, right? A good bowman or magic wielder, you're going to be pretty well if you're an elf.
Yeah.
But you don't have to be. An elf can be a barbarian if you want.
Right. And I would imagine sometimes it could even be fun to try to make the oddest combinations.
Oh, it's so much fun. If you're going to min-max, so there's some people who love min-maxing. There's some people who just want to create the best character, who's the best fighter, the best whatever, and that's all good and fine. People have a lot of fun. That's the best part about D&D. There's all this flexibility. I find it that if you can build a character that you really stand by or really enjoy, like they're the best. My favorite characters to date are the ones that I didn't try to min-max. I just went in and been like, that's a really unique, exactly what you're saying. Like, what's kind of a funny combo that I can do and just have this character live out in the world? I don't know.
Yeah. So for Gimli, it came down to me. I was torn between either the fighter or the barbarian. I think he fits. So just a quick description of each. The barbarian, official description, short description anyway, is a fierce warrior who can enter into a battle rage. And the fighter is just a master of martial combat, skilled with a variety of weapons and armor. So I got to thinking, Gimli really just has an axe. I mean, he's got small axes, but
he throws them.
He's not versatile. He's not like Boromir or Aragorn or anything or Legolas for that matter. So the barbarian, I lean toward that, and he does have an anger. I mean, he is very competitive with Legolas, and he could get very angry, right? And some would call it a rage, right? I mean, he is a dwarf. So I settled on barbarian for Gimli.
Love it.
I didn't go into any subclasses and stuff. I didn't have
No, you wouldn't have to. Yeah. We're not actually building. If you want to build a character one day, it'd be great.
We could, right?
Yeah. But right now, I think the overall class is solid.
But so would you agree? I mean, that's
1,000%.
I think that fits for him, right?
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, fighter and barbarian would be kind of tough, but yeah, I think just remember him counting as he's like slaying all these Urukai climbing up the ladders of Helm's Deep. That's just, I mean, come on. Also, he goes for the crotch shot on that one. Yeah, he's got some rage in him. I feel like that's perfect.
You'll have to trust me.
You have to don't tell the alpha.
Yeah. So I figured Gimli, and then I'm like, all right, well, this would be kind of fun if I just tried to match all the classes.
Oh, the Fellowship.
Well, I started with the Fellowship, but there was a lot of repeats in the Fellowship.
Yeah.
So I wanted, so not all the Fellowship I got to. I just wanted to match all the class types. So let's see. The next one here is Bard.
Tom Bombadil.
So I thought of Tom Bombadil, but my boy Pippin. I mean, he's the only one that's really right.
Yeah.
So he's like a Bard fighter. So like
fighters can be Bard. Yeah.
So like, I mean, he's definitely a Knight of Gondor. Mm-hmm. But man, he singing in the Hall of the Steward with the tomato. I mean, he's the only one that has anything to do with music in the.
Yeah, exactly. And he's got a lot of charisma. I mean, say what you want about him.
Yeah. I mean,
he's not the most dexterous because he did knock that helmet over, and
Yeah, and in The Witcher, makes you view the Bard as someone silly and goofy like Pippin. Right?
Oh,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, not in D&D. It's actually opposite.
But that was my image.
Of course, I mean, when you think of Bard, that's exactly where you go to.
Right.
Which I think that's kind of cool. These systems has a way of like. Because actually the most, broken's the wrong term, but people say broken character, but, bards are insane. A very high charismatic character that can do a lot of things, has magic, has a lot of control. It can get pretty silly pretty quick, so bards are actually really well well known whether that's a good thing or a bad thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, do you have any other options you think for Bard? I mean, I
think Bard's perfect.
Yeah.
No. If you had to fill that slot, I would 1,000%. It would either be him or Tom Bombadil, because Tom Bombadil, sings all that fun stuff. So.
True. So the next one on the list is Cleric. So the description is a priestly champion who wields divine magic in service of a higher power, right? Mm-hmm. And then kind of the examples it gives on the website is that they're healers and warriors, divine agents. So I saw that immediately. I thought elf, and I thought Elrond was the one that came to mind.
Yeah, literally the House of Healing. Yeah.
I mean, he's the one who could heal Frodo. He's the only one that could heal Frodo.
Yep. Right.
I mean, Arwen couldn't. She put a Band-Aid on it so her father could heal him. For Druid, so it says a priest of the old faith, wielding the powers of nature, adopting animal forms. So it's not going to be like a 100% match, but
there's a Hobbit. That's the only thing I could think of. The Skin Changers.
Oh,
what's his name? Blad or why did I say the name? No, I can't think of it. I think it's Blad. The changer in Little Hobbit.
You mean from the Into the Bear and stuff, right?
Yeah. Oh, Beorn.
Beorn, that's right.
Beorn,
yeah.
Sorry. What? Who the heck's Blad? Okay, not a big deal, but Beorn.
I don't know. There's probably a Blad somewhere.
Oh my gosh. Paul. All right, so hey, spoiler. Paul will be on a future episode. I will tell him about this. I was trying to think of who's half man, half wolf. Blad is from Elden Ring. So the reason why I bring Paul has been just requesting that I play Elden Ring, and I eventually got to it, and I've been playing it quite a bit, but that's just funny. But yeah, sorry.
So Beorn would be good because he is a skin changer, but the other facets of their power of nature likes to preserve the balance. So I actually thought of Radagast for a druid.
Oh, fantastic!
Because he is all about nature, keeping the balance within his realm. He only comes out when Gandalf begs him to. I mean, when Gandalf needs saving from the sorcerer, right?
Literally, yeah.
Which happens to be Sauron, right? So I thought that was kind of I struggle with this one, and then Radagast popped up. I'm like, that would be a good fit.
Yeah, it's perfect.
All right, so next we got the fighter. So the fighter here,
oh my gosh,
it could be
so many.
There's so many. You could do.
I mean, Boromir.
That's who I ended up choosing because he's just like the meat and potatoes fighter, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So you got Aragorn, Faramir, right? But I actually think those two fit better in the ranger category. I mean, ranger's literally what Aragorn is. Mm-hmm. But I think Faramir
same
fits.
With Faramir. Faramir is literally ranger too. He's a ranger of Gondor when he's doing all of his Osgiliath. But side contingent, I can't remember what they call themselves, but that is literally, if I had to be in a Lord of the Rings, the name franchise, and be in a militant group, that's the group I want to be in.
Yeah. I think Legolas could probably fit in the ranger or fighter category as well.
Oh, big time.
Yeah,
those are the two easiest ones to knock out. I really believe that there's a lot of overlap there. Mm-hmm. So do you have any other ones?
So, I named them all, except, Paladin. Let's see who I put for Paladin. Yes, because they're dedicated to a higher purpose, right? Mm-hmm. I have Sam, because he's on a holy mission. Oh. I first thought Frodo, but Frodo became corrupt. Sam never did. He is more dedicated to the mission than Frodo is.
Yeah, big time.
Because he's dedicated to Frodo, right? And Frodo was corrupted by the ring. So I thought Sam was good there.
Yeah, that's perfect. Yeah. I think he did a good job. It's kind of tough because it's so funny. Like, a lot of these are magic wielders, even though inherently, they never wield magic. But I love your thought process. Right. I really like it, yeah.
So then there's the rogue who, I mean, they're supposed to be stealth. You could choose any hobbit, but Smeagol too. I mean, really.
Oh, yeah,
because there's trickster vibes to it, right? So that was a good one for me. Sorcerer, the one that came is Sauron. I mean, he's
just innate magic,
and he gets it from he's an Astari. He's the same race as the wizards, but it's just kind of a different vibe.
Yeah, the whole point is like the sorcerer in D&D is like they have such it's like in their blood. Yeah, literally, like they are so good at magic, just inherently. They don't have to do the wizarding training. They don't have to do all this other stuff. Like it's just innate to them.
Right.
So.
Then the warlock is a wielder of magic, but it was given to them by by a sorcerer. And that was easy than Nazgul, right? If Sauron is the sorcerer, then Nazgul the warlock.
Gosh. Yeah, I love these, Mark. I would have never. It's so funny. I would have a completely different list, and maybe we should have done that back and back. Yeah, but no, I would have a different. But that's perfect. I love where you're thinking. Yeah,
and then the wizard, of course, just Gandalf. I mean, yeah.
Oh yeah.
So the one I couldn't figure out was Monk. I couldn't link any of them to it because none of the characters really fit. I mean, it's a master of martial arts who harnesses the power of the body in pursuit of physical and spiritual perfection. They're loners, right? Usually from a monastery. There was really none of them really.
Maybe Gladriel,
maybe
because she's more of the loner type.
Yeah.
But at the same time, too, monk would be really hard, I think, in that context. Yeah, everybody battles with a weapon. I mean, when the dwarves don't have their weapons, like in The Hobbit, I keep referring back to The Hobbit, but so there's a points where dwarves still actually don't have weapons, and so they're like using their hands, fists to cuffs, but at the same time, too, that doesn't mean they're, monk-like by any means.
Right.
I think that one just got cut bait on. And honestly, Mark, just between me and the Fence Post and the rest of our listeners, I'm not a monk guy, man. I really am not. And in all the D&D I've played almost every single class when I say every single class, meaning for one-shots, whole 9 yards. I have never played a monk.
Ever in your entire life?
Nope, just not even interested. We even did a whole, a spin-off and, a joke, a one-off of, Kung Fu Panda. And even then, because there's a turtle class.
Yeah.
So Master Oogway.
Yeah.
So basically I was trying to make a Master Oogway character, and I couldn't even bring myself up to making him a monk. I ended up making him I think I made him like a paladin or something. You know what I mean? Just a staff, and I thought he's got more magic to him, or stuff like that. So so I can understand why that was the more difficult one. It really does not lend itself. And listeners, if you can think of a Lord of the Rings character that would be more monk-like, I can't think of one.
I'd love to hear it, because I thought about that for a long time, and I couldn't make any connections there. Yep. I mean, none of them fit the bill, right?
No. Yeah, Mark, do you have any other thing you kind of want to add to that? I'm kind of...
It's good. I think we covered good. I had fun trying to match the characters to the classes.
And with that long explanation, do you feel like maybe not understand D&D better, but maybe understand how it applies, like lore can apply into this?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay,
right.
good.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not us deep diving. It's not us doing a what-if scenario. It's enjoying lore with other people that enjoy lore, right?
Yeah.
So.
And the best part is you can have someone who totally enjoys the lore and someone who totally enjoys combat in the same room.
Correct.
And still enjoy the same story. So.
All right, so it's been a little while, but we're going to go back and do a mix-up for this episode, Tony. Are you excited?
I'm very excited because we have not done this in a long time.
It's literally been sitting on the podcast table, and we look at it every episode and just haven't touched it.
And every single time we're like,
we should probably,
Yeah.
So I'm excited.
Okay. This is a new one.
Mm-hmm.
It's Kill, Marry, Frack.
Okay, so I need 3 of them.
All right. You need 3. By the way, Frack as in, so that's from Battlestar Galactica. They were on daytime, so they couldn't say the F word. So whenever they were talking to people, they would say frack. So that's why the frack and Cylons. And so they're not talking about the geothermal frack.
So, listeners, before I even read these, I think I already know Tony's answer for the frack, but we'll go for it anyway. You ready, Tony?
Oh, okay.
So your options are Mad Eye Moody.
Nice. He's an easy frack. No,
the Ent Wives.
Okay.
And Ayla Sakura.
All right, I'm out. All right, hey.
Not to out you, Tony, but...
Yeah, no, I mean, because you get that question, you're like, hey, who's your celebrity crush? Every single time. And this might be, honestly, people might look at me weird, but it was always a joke. I always jokingly said it, but I was always like, yeah, no, it was just a 2005, Battlefront 2 on the Xbox, that Ayla Sakura. That was top tier. You know what I mean? When you're... young and you're just like, oh my gosh, you know what I mean? And also, she was so sick, dude. Her force abilities, I remember being pretty cool. And she was the only one to go toe-to-toe with Grievous because she had 2 lightsabers.
Double lightsabers.
Oh, dude, I freaking love Ayla Sakura. So, she's a blue Twi'lek, but I can answer that question easy. So that one, Frack's going to Ayla Sakura. You know what? Mary.
I was going to say, it could be that one, yeah.
It's Mary. That's an easy Mary. Mad Eye Moody, marrying Mad Eye, you're kind of, deemed security, right? He would always make sure he has your back, but also there's so many people after him that you're inherently in more danger than what you would be. I'm killing Mad Eye, I think.
I have to agree. Mad Eye is way too crazy, I think, to be in a relationship with.
Oh, yeah.
He's way too unpredictable.
Mm-hmm.
And he just doesn't seem that loving,
Oh, yeah, he's going to be distant. He's going to be real distant.
Yeah.
And then also in a weird way, whenever you post anything, he's going to be like, people are going to know where I am.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
He just seems like a handful.
Oh, yeah, 1,000,000%.
Yeah.
And, every single relationship needs a little bit of privacy. Can you imagine that eye just constantly swirling around and you're like, dude, I'm just pouring my freaking bran flakes, dog. Right.
And then I think marry Ayla Sakura. The Ent Wives, I don't think it's going to be that enjoyable to do the fracking
No,
with a
tree.
tree. So you just get it over once, and then the rest of your life is bliss.
You gotta find them though. That's a tough thing. They don't even know where they are.
That's true.
So if
there-
anything, you know,
You may just not find them, right?
yeah,
you
may not
tried,
find 'em.
you know?
Yeah, you gave it your all.
Who knows? Maybe you'll just frack a tree instead of an
Yeah, and then you're back to square one. Yeah. So this is like our most explicit content
Yeah.
today. I'm surprised I kind of put this in. At the time, I was like, that's kind of an interesting one. I'd be kind of curious to see where that goes. But we got kind of 3 easy names. Mm-hmm. I think relatively easy,
I think
right?
so,
I
yeah.
mean, I feel like that was straightforward.
Yeah.
And it's hard to play devil's advocate with you because it's like,
At
what
least
am I going to do? Marry Mad Eye? I tried to marry Mad Eye.
Yeah.
Think that
At least
thought
on this
process.
one. This one was pretty. Yeah.
Yeah, this one was pretty straightforward. Honestly, round 2?
Round 2.
All right, dude.
Let's
Hey,
do it.
why not? Pick a 2.
Why not? We're behind on mix-ups anyway, right?
And if we get more suggestions from listeners, then we can do this a lot more.
Yeah.
Oh man. Okay, Mark.
I'm
you
ready
for this?
Yep.
You're just gonna choose. You can choose 1 or 2. It's up to you.
Okay. What's
But the prompt is daddy issues or is a daddy.
Ooh.
So daddy issues meaning if they were to parent you, how would you turn out?
Yeah.
And then is a daddy. Once again, I don't throw Jen under the bus, but she was the one who helped me out with this, and we're trying to find a different play on that. Basically, being like kind of like the heartthrob, but you know, it would be a really good dad and stuff like that. Who do you have?
Grip hook.
Oh my gosh. Well, Mark, what do you think he's gonna be?
That man has daddy issues.
Oh,
for
big
sure.
time. And by the way, that could be either has daddy issues or would give daddy issues if he was your dad.
I think also.
Either way,
Yeah.
I mean, this is a two-way street.
I don't think he's going to be a good dad, first of all.
No,
yeah,
no.
So
It's
I think it's
bidirectional.
both.
Yeah, big time.
You know, I'm going to choose another one, and then
Yeah.
then I have to choose between the two who's the daddy.
Correct. Because
I'll probably get it.
Because if you choose a even worse one,
Yeah.
we're just
I
stuck
know there's
with it.
worse ones in here.
Oh,
so.
1,000,000%. Oh my gosh. Well, what is it?
Watto,
Watto?
who owns the Skywalkers in the first movie.
Okay. What do you? Okay, we gotta switch cups or something. Oh my gosh.
I'm pulling some bad names here, folks.
Okay, so first and foremost, both of them are daddy issues. 1,000,000%.
Yeah.
1 million. I mean, Watto, in a weird way, there's no like good character in him. Like there's,
Right.
I don't know. I don't even know I can't even defend him. I don't even want to defend him. So
Right.
the real question is though, gun to your head, who's the daddy? Out of that group, you had to choose one.
I know. I have to choose one. I'm trying to list.
You're in
Watto?
high school. You know what I mean? Your hormones are going all crazy and everything like that. Who do you think is going to be sitting you down and going, son, life's going to be okay. You'll figure it out.
First of all, Tony, if my hormones were going for either one of these creatures, I want you to take me out back. All right.
Oh,
So-
no. Hormones meaning like, do you know, like when you're in high school and you're stressed out? No, whoa. Hey, we already got that done, Mark. That was section one. That was section one. No. But if you were like hormonal, meaning like you're just so uncertain in the world, right?
Yeah.
You don't know what's going on with your body. You don't even know what's going on. What are you gonna do what are you gonna do after? What's going on? Kind of that kind of uncertainty. Who's gonna be the one to sit you down and be like, son, it's gonna be all okay?
I don't think either would be a good job. But gun to my
no.
head, I'm choosing Watto because he has.
I'm looking at Mark with eyes of just, whoa, what?
He has experience with children. Grip Hook does not.
That's a quality.
I'm not saying it's.
choices.
I'm not saying it's good experience. Grip Hook's not going to be a good dad. I'm not saying Watto is either, but at least he is a dad.
No, I know, but it just, oh man, it just made me laugh.
He's a slave owner, but you know it's kind of like a dad.
That's your, no, that was good. No. I think,
You think Grip Hook would be better?
1,000%. I mean, at a minimum, he could just like conjure up something, with a snap, but. Oh man, Mark, I haven't laughed that hard in the podcast. I don't think that was really good. When you picked your counsel, I laughed that hard.
That's true.
God, that was really funny.
Hey, Watto let Anakin go home early that one day, so hey, he's got some sort of.
Oh, you're right.
kindness.
Yeah. One day, but no, that was really solid. But yeah, Mark, I think we got our two in. Those are our two
I
more
think it was
interesting
good.
prompts.
Yeah.
I think.
I think
And
so.
I think we got even more interesting answers. So
Yep. Yeah, I think that was good, Tony. Any last thoughts from you?
Nope. I think my only last thought is that please, if you're really thinking about it, I would highly recommend D&D or any of the RPGs that we mentioned. If you want to find a group, let us know. Maybe we can even do an online group because all these things can also be done online too. So if one of these kind of really caught your eye and you kind of want to try it out, we can definitely figure something out. And then maybe Mark, bring in for one shot and maybe we can go back on the podcast and have you talk about it. But really, if you're going to live out the lore and have a good vehicle in which you can do that, I really think tabletop role-playing games is going to be a really great avenue.
Absolutely. And I think I'd recommend the movie too. So it was funny. I has never played D&D before.
Oh, the D&D movie.
I enjoyed the movie, and you and others who do play D&D said there were subtleties that you picked up on that were a reference that you guys appreciated, but you don't need to have played D&D to watch the movie.
I think another thing, too, of all the recent movies, that is one of my top movies that has been released in the last, 5 years. It was really that good. I walked out of theater. It was such a phenomenal movie, so highly recommend it. So.
And with that, thanks for listening, everybody. Please reach out with questions, mix-ups, and what-if ideas.
Yeah, and absolutely. And if you ask yourself, hey, well, how should we reach out? Instagram and X Twitter, being at the Live, Laugh, Lore Pod, or email us at livelaughLorePod@gmail.com. That's livelaughLorePod, Pod, @gmail.com.
Thanks, guys.